As journalists dig into the Jeffrey Epstein emails that have been released by the House Oversight Committee, well, we're learning quite a bit about his hawkishness and his involvement in various geopolitical plots. Are you surprised by that, Jake?
Look, we already had some of these emails, but now as you're gonna see, we have even more emails. And in all the emails, Epstein's trying to help one country. I'll let you take a minute with it and try to figure out which country it might be. And then of course, after we find out all the actual facts, then I wanna ask the question as I usually do. So all of legacy media hasn't noticed this? Why are they covering up the facts we're about to tell you?
Right, well, of course we can speculate on that, but let's just talk a little bit about what we're learning from Branko Marcetic's reporting over at Jacobin. So Dropsite News has done a fantastic job, kind of like focusing on Epstein's ties to the Israeli government. This piece is published in Jacobin though, and the reporting here is fantastic. And I'm gonna focus on main elements of the reporting, but definitely check out the full report because I think you're gonna have some tidbits in there that you're gonna wanna learn about. Now, Marcetic finds that over the years, Epstein exchanged emails with former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who apparently was very close with, opposing the Iran nuclear deal and favoring military action against Syria, meaning US military action against Syria. He also expressed concern about Israel's intensifying turn away from the two-state solution, which I found a little surprising. And he counseled Donald Trump advisor and China hawk Steve Bannon on how the Trump administration could best take on this leading global rival of the United States. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, real quick, guys. I was surprised by one thing that I saw in the emails, and it gives you a better sense of how Epstein might have been working with the Israelis. But I also wanted to clarify for you guys, when he says that there should be a bombing of Syria and Iran, these Israeli figures, including the former prime minister, never mean Israel. They mean the US should do it for Israel. Israel doesn't want to get its hands dirty. It wants to force America into it, and that's what they're conspiring about.
So in 2013, Epstein encouraged Ehud Barak to add to the mounting pressure that then President Barack Obama was facing in regard to, engaging militarily in Syria after news stories started being published about how Bashar al-Assad was using chemical weapons in that civil war. Now, at the time, if you guys can remember, Obama had said that his red line as it pertains to Syria was the use of chemical weapons. Then these reports start percolating about how Bashar al-Assad is using chemical weapons. And the real question was, okay, well, is Obama gonna engage militarily? Luckily he didn't, although Obama did fund effectively terrorist groups in Syria instead. And that's how you have a former Al-Qaeda leader now serving as the new leader of Syria, which I don't think is a win for the United States by any stretch of the imagination. But nonetheless, at that time, this is the email exchange between Epstein and Barak. Time to write the wait until too late op-ed. Epstein emailed Barak on August 31st, 2013. That was the day that Barack Obama delivered a major speech responding to news that then Syrian President Bashar al-Assad had deployed chemical weapons against his own people, something Obama a year earlier had said would trigger a US military response. Now, the other thing I should note is that Israel very much wanted Bashar al-Assad to fall. They were part of that proxy war, and they were also part of this, covert CIA strategy of arming the terrorist groups within the country in order to fuel the ongoing civil war.
Yeah, I want you to pay attention to that first line that Anna read. Time to write the wait until too late op-ed. So that's the same strategy they used in Iraq. You can't wait till it's too late. It'll come in the form of a mushroom cloud. So he's telling the former Israeli prime minister, let's use that same strategy again on behalf of Israel to get America to go into a war that they don't need to be in, just like Iraq. And so the Israeli officials hated Obama. Why did they hate Obama? When he gave them Iron Dome and did everything that they asked for, gave them all the funding they asked for, because he didn't do one thing that they really wanted, which was to bomb Iran and force Americans to fight that war for Israel. So they were furious because he disobeyed them.
Right.
And by the way, since he's the one American politician that's disagreed with them once, I guess Obama wins for most courageous. It is a very low bar.
Epstein went on to advise Barack on what, I'm not giving Obama any credit for anything, okay? None.
On the Iran deal, you have to give him credit.
Whatever, okay. Epstein went on to advise Barack on, I'm sorry, pause for a second. Obama didn't know that his senior speechwriter was a supporter of genocide and Holocaust as long as it doesn't happen to the Jews?
He didn't, because back then, she hadn't said that. So now look, what I'm telling you, Anna, is don't get upset.
Full to the brim with vipers, okay?
Yeah,
that's the reality of that administration.
So guys, just to give you a little bit more context and why Anna's that upset about it, because we've covered other emails from Epstein and Ehud Barak before, where Epstein calls up random people in the Obama administration and asks for things, and they're like, yes, sir, right away, sir. We will serve you, sir, right? So why is Obama hiring all these guys who are Israel first when he's supposed to be big change guy? Why does he do 99% of what they wanted? So you're right to be frustrated about that. It's just that all of our other politicians do 100% of what Israel wants, and he did defy them once. And I mean, it's such a low bar. He wouldn't bring us into a disastrous war for no damn reason. And on that, they're like, how dare you? And it shows you how much control Israel has, that they're so furious that one president wouldn't do one thing.
Obama gave Israel the Iron Dome. It's never enough. It's never enough for that government. Never enough.
Exactly. And because and he gives them Iron Dome and they go, no, you owe us. That doesn't count because you owe us. Why? Why do we owe you? This is a scam.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. For the love of God. Epstein went on to advise Barack on what such an op-ed might look like. I would use the opportunity to compare it with Iran, he wrote. The solutions become more complex. By the way, Epstein was a total idiot. Like, his writing never made any sense. Random capitalizations throughout the sentences, no grammar, no spelling, no grasp of reality, and a disgusting predator to boot. But anyway, he says the solutions become more complex with time, not less. And then bizarrely, he added that Barack might point out the gassing of women and children is an expressions from the 20th century, and that women are no longer equiv to children.
So that one is also super important, because even though he's saying, tell him how terrible it is that Assad is gassing his own people, including women and children, he's like, but you know what? Don't emphasize the women. Why? You want it for propaganda purposes. Because Israel knows they're killing women in the occupied territories, and they don't want that to be counted as terrorism. What Epstein didn't know is later they would murder 20,000 children anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, how about killing innocent people is wrong, period. Whether they're women, whether they're men, whether they're children, it doesn't matter. But whatever, we're talking about monstrous people who don't have a moral bone in their bodies. Epstein was also similarly aggressive when it came to Iran. So he did not favor the JCPOA, otherwise known as the Iran nuclear deal, which Trump later ripped up in 2018. But as diplomatic discussions were taking place between the United States and Iran, Epstein kind of started to panic. In fact, he started to panic when Iran opted for a reformist, pro-diplomacy leader as opposed to someone who was a hardliner against the West. So in February of 2013, for instance, Epstein emailed another friend and associate, Larry Summers, 7 articles about Middle Eastern geopolitics, the top one being a Wall Street Journal op-ed charging that Iranian leadership wasn't serious about a deal and merely viewed negotiations as a pretense for buying time to develop a nuke. By the way, I honestly think developing a nuke would probably be the only thing that keeps the Middle East safe at this point. Because, I mean, look, does Israel go after Pakistan? No, they leave Pakistan alone. Is it because Pakistan has nuclear weapons? The only way to prevent a war with Iran at this point is if Iran races against time and manages to develop a nuclear weapon. So that's how devastating this situation is at this point.
Look at all the power players, they're all against peace. It's amazing. If there's one thing that Epstein was more consistent on than his love and support of Israel, was that his love and support of war in general.
Yes.
That also applied to China, and he was trying to start a war with them as well. So my theory on that is either he was connected to defense contractors.
Absolutely.
And or he was invested in defense contractors or oil companies that would have gained from those wars. So that, and we're gonna get to in a second how incredibly powerful he is in the world overall. So he is pushing all the power brokers, war, war, war.
Yes. Now the subject line of that email to Larry Summers was "Prep for dinner, Israel Prez briefing," which was likely a reference to then Israeli President Shimon Peres. And so Summers, by the way, was an economic advisor to Obama at the time. So reaching out to Larry Summers meant having some sway potentially over Obama as it pertains to potential diplomatic discussions with Iran. Obviously, Epstein wanted to dissuade Obama from engaging in those discussions. Later that year, Summers was even favored by the Obama administration to be the Federal Reserve Chair. But Summers voluntarily took himself out of the running. I don't remember why that was, do you?
No, it's not clear why he did, but what happened was he was the Treasury Secretary under Clinton. He was a top economic advisor under Obama, and then they thought they might even make him, put him on the Fed. For whatever reason, he backed out of it, but it gives you a sense of how much Obama trusted Summers. So Epstein thought, perfect, let me use Summers to manipulate Obama into war and helping Israel.
So then years later in 2017, and with Trump as president, Epstein expressed unease about Iran electing a pro-diplomacy reformist over like a hardline, anti-nuclear deal candidate. And so he said something along the lines of, "I told you this would happen. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better." And this is an email that Epstein had written to Ehud Barak at the time. This is in 2017. So understand, he's panicking because Iranians voted in a reformist rather than a hardliner who would not want to approach the United States and the West diplomatically in order to reach an Iran nuclear deal. He did not want any diplomacy. He wanted flat war, full-blown war between Iran and the United States on behalf of Israel.
And if you're wondering why does Israel want us to go to war with Iran? Wouldn't a peace deal suffice? That way Israel's safe if we have a peace deal. They can't develop uranium and they can't develop a nuke. Israel's safe. Why would they be against that? Because Israel believes that any weapons in the Middle East is a threat to them. And Iran still has conventional weapons and supports Hezbollah and Hamas.
Iran is a threat to Israel. You wanna know why? Because look, if Israel wanted to respect borders and didn't want to continue annexing land from Lebanon, which they're doing right now, from Syria, which they've already done. Obviously, there's the West Bank and Gaza, which they're salivating over as we speak. If they actually respected borders, well, then Iran wouldn't be a threat to them. But Iran is a threat because it's the only country that will fight back against Israel as it engages in its expansionist Greater Israel project.
That's why the lies about the nukes and the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq were always a distraction. They were to rile you up and make you worried that, oh my God, maybe they could use a nuke against us, America, right? When that was always a lie. The whole point was destroy Iraq because they were helping Hamas at the time, and destroy Iran because they're helping Hamas and Hezbollah. And that way, no one could ever help the Palestinians as the Israelis took more and more land. You neuter the entire Middle East, you destroy all of their governments, all of their military, except you don't do that. You make the Americans do that by manipulating them through actions just like this.
Exactly. But later when it became clear that Trump was going to have an adversarial relationship with Iran, Epstein was elated about that. Let's go to graphic 6 where he wrote, Trump threatened Iran with a happy face. Epstein wrote to Steve Bannon in July of 2018 after Trump had made headlines with an all caps tweet threatening Iran's new president. Yes, I saw that and immediately remember our conversation, Bannon replied. The following evening after Trump announced that, quote, we're ready to make a real deal, end quote, with Iran, Epstein called it nuts. So he's having a little bit of an emotional roller coaster, I think, as most Americans were experiencing under Trump's first term. And then when Bannon informed Epstein a year later that Trump's eldest son had been summoned to a meeting with the Senate Intelligence Committee over potential perjury charges, Epstein dismissed the story's importance. Focus on Iran, he wrote.
Yeah, so what you get out of these emails when it comes to Steve Bannon is Bannon and Epstein were a team.
Yep.
They were constantly conspiring together. How do we get to do Trump to do this, America to do that? So the thing that they agreed on was war. And yes, Bannon was super friendly towards overtures of helping Israel unfairly. What happened to America first, okay? And so the second thing you get out of it is that Bannon is such a hilarious racist. So they're talking back and forth now about China. And when they do, Bannon's like, oh, they're just a bunch of peasants. They won't be real competition. That is preposterously stupid. And I guess it stems from his racism. Like, oh, Western civilization, bunch of peasants in China. Have you seen their cities? Have you seen their high-speed rail?
I know, in fact.
Have you seen their technology?
I think if most Americans saw what China looks like and compared their infrastructure to what our infrastructure looks like, you would be raging right now. And you should be raging. You should be raging. We pay a lot in taxes in this country. We get barely anything in return.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.